Good morning, students. This is Suresh, your commerce teacher from Government Degree College, Kukatpalli. Today, we will learn about contingent contracts. Friends, we can bifurcate contracts into absolute contracts and contingent contracts. In absolute contracts, the obligations of the parties are certain to be performed. Once a contract is formed, you have to discharge the obligation which is attributed to you by virtue of signing a contract or agreement. If you don't perform the contract, it leads to a revocation of contract or breach of your duty in the contract. But contingent contracts are different. Contingent contract is that type of contract wherein your performance depends on some future event. So if that future event doesn't happen, you need not to perform the contract. Best example for contingent contract is insurance contract. Suppose I took an insurance policy to my vehicle. So its validity is 1 year, right? So if during this 1 year, if anything happens to my vehicle, if it is met with accident, only then the performance obligation of the insurance company comes into picture, right? Suppose during the policy period, if nothing happened to my vehicle, will they pay any amount to me? No. So, the obligation of the party to perform contract depends only on future event. That is called contingent contract in common parlance. So, section 31 to 36 are attributed to define and discuss the technicalities of contingent contract in Indian Contract Act 1872. Now let us understand the definition of contingent contract, the legal rules governing contingent contract, and we will also try to understand how these contingent contracts are different from wagering agreements. Please do remember that wagering agreements are different from contingent contracts, right? Now let us see. According to section 31 of Indian Contract Act, contingent contract is a contract to do or not to do something if some event collateral to such contract does or does not happen. Very clear, isn't it? It's a contract to do or not to do something. It doesn't say that you have to do it. So it clearly says it may be an act to do or not to do something. If some event collateral to such contract does or does not happen. So what is collateral event? It must be something related to the subject matter of the contract. It must be something incidental, very much directly connected to the subject matter of the contract. That is called collateral event. So such collateral event and its happening determines the validity of a contingent contract. If you meticulously observe this definition, it has also got a phrase to do or not to do something if some event collateral to such contract does or does not happen. Does or does not happen. So sometimes not happening of an event also binds the parties with contractual relation. So this can be better understood by decoding this definition, right? So before we decode the definition, first let us understand the features of contingent contract. They exhibit very peculiar characteristics comparing to other type of valid contracts. So what are the features of contingent contract? Well, friends, you can see that they are different from wagering agreements. Wagering agreements are nothing but betting agreements. If I win, you have to give amount. If you win, I will give amount. That is called wagering agreement. But do you say that insurance contract is a betting agreement? No, it's a contingent contract. So therefore, contingent contracts are absolutely different from wagering agreements. So what those differences are, we will see in the next slides. They are valid in the eyes of law. Absolutely. Though the happening or enforceability of contingent contract depends upon certain uncertain future event or contingent event. What is the meaning of contingency after all? We don't know whether it may happen or otherwise. So though such contingent nature is attributed to the future event, it is very much valid in the eyes of law. The validity depends on future events, as I told you. Suppose my vehicle met with an accident yesterday. I took insurance policy today. So will the insurance company pay compensation for yesterday's loss? No, certainly not. Because it depends on the future events. The future event must be collateral to contract. Clear? So what is this collateral event? Something which is very much pertaining to the subject matter of contract. Something which is very much pertaining to the performance to be tendered by the parties of contract. That is called collateral event or related event. If we took insurance policy for a vehicle, the collateral event that binds insurance company is some accident. Some accident. Suppose intentionally I burnt my vehicle. Will the company come forward to pay insurance? Certainly not. So intentionally damaged. Suppose there is a warning that you should not ride beyond 120 kilometers of speed in a specific road. I rode it with 140 kilometers or 150 kilometers. And something unforeseen happened or something unfortunate happened. Will the insurance company give compensation to me? No. So because the performance need to be related to the contract. Need to be related to the contract. Let me take another small example to illustrate it. Suppose a farmer agrees to sell whatever produce that comes in his farm to a trader. So if the produce doesn't harvest or the produce doesn't come into existence owing to poor monsoons or pesticide failures or seed failures, they are collateral events. The farmer can escape the liability. Monsoons are poor, so it could not harvest. The farm did not yield any agriculture produce. I can't sell it to you. Now let us suppose like this. A farmer agrees to sell whatever produce that comes in his farm to a trader, and it took some 3 months time to harvest it. Meanwhile, there was a dispute between farmer and his neighbor. So they had some problem. They did not cultivate it properly. They did not allow the water to flow into the farms properly. So they had other problems due to which cultivation did not take place. Can you absolve farmer from liability? No, because your dispute with neighbor is not collateral to happening of future event, that is future harvesting of produce. So first case I told you, poor monsoon failure is collateral event. But dispute with neighbor and agriculture produce in the farmland is not a collateral event. So it is not a valid excuse to escape your liability, right? Therefore, the future event must be collateral to contract, right? Suppose I may say, if American president loses his election, I will give you 10,000 rupees. Neither you are interested in American election, nor I. Neither you are a voter, nor I. So we don't have any collateral interest in that. So is it a contingent contract? No. It is a mere wagering agreement. Now you got the point? Collateral means something which is very much incidental to the performance of contract or subject matter of the contract. That is called a collateral event. They should fulfill all the essential elements of a valid contract. We all know from our previous chapters that parties to contract must be competent, they should be measured by age, they should be of sound mind, there must be valid offer and acceptance, there must be lawful consideration, so on and so forth. So these all essential elements must duly exist in contingent contracts either. Clear? So these are the essential characteristics of contingent contracts. Now let us see what law speaks about contingent contracts and how they are governed. So legal rules governing contingent contract that will duly take care of decoding the definition as well. Now let us see the legal rules given from section 32 to 36, because section 31 gives the definition of contingent contract and from 32 to 36 speaks about the technicalities or legalities that governs the validity of or enforceability of contingent contracts. First point, contingent contracts are enforceable on happening of a future event. Section 32. I told you earlier, if I take an insurance policy, for example, if any accident takes place to my vehicle, that is a future event, only then the contract with the insurance company is enforceable. So happening of future event. Second, the enforceability of contingent contracts may also depends on not happening of future event. Section 33. I underlined the word not happening here in second point. What is the difference between first and second points here? In first section, that is section 32, says if any future contingency happens, only then obligation of the parties come into picture. Now here what we are saying is, if something does not happen, only then our obligation comes into picture. Such contracts can also be drafted with all legal means, with all kinds of validity. Let me give an example. Suppose a shipping company may take a vessel insurance or a ship insurance. So the insurance company may stipulate a time. If your ship doesn't return to specific port on or before so and so date, only then we will pay you compensation. So not happening, that means returning of ship is happening, but not happening of event is if your ship doesn't return on time. Suppose it is sunk somewhere else, it is met with the sea perils, so it does not return to your port on time, it does not return to a specific destination, only then our obligation comes into picture. Such type of contracts are also valid. That is the reason why our definition very clearly says it's a contract to do or not to do something if some collateral event does or does not happen. That does not happen has got the decoding version here in section 33. It becomes void if the happening of future event turns to be impossible. That means at the beginning there was a possibility to perform, but the time when it had to be performed, it turned to be impossible. What do you call such contract? It is called a void contract, which is enforceable at the beginning but loses validity due to future events which are unforeseen. Let us take a small example. Suppose a farmer makes an agreement with a trader to sell his agriculture produce that can be harvested in coming 3 months. That is, after 90 days, the produce will be harvested. It will be sold to the trader. Agreement is made. Let us suppose during this tenure, that is during the 90-day period, government has come forward to acquire that land. We have one law called Land Acquisition Act, under which government can acquire anyone's land to meet the public interest like infrastructure projects. So government may say, no, here we want to construct a railway line through your paddy farm or through your farmland. So we are giving you compensation and we are acquiring this land. So in second month itself, the government acquired the land of a farmer. After 3 months, the trader comes and demands, where is the produce? Where is the product? Give it to me. Otherwise, I will sue you in the court of law. Is the trader's version correct? No, because section 34 made the contract void here, because once there is no possibility, the possibility of cultivating is lost at a future date by virtue of acquiring the land by government. So initially when you had contract with farmer, when you had agreement with farmer, there was possibility of cultivation. But before the harvest took place, the possibility became impossible. It turned to be impossible. So the contract becomes void. The farmer cannot be held liable for not performing the contract. Clear? It becomes void if happening of future event turns to be impossible. That means it becomes impossible at a future date. The future event should happen within specified time if time is mentioned in the contract. Classic example to illustrate this point is insurance contracts. Suppose we took a vehicle insurance for 1 year. Within this 1 year policy period, if anything happens, only then the obligation of insurance company comes into existence. Suppose 1 year is lapsed, the policy period is lapsed, and I did not renew my policy. So will the insurance company compensate any accident or compensate any loss that causes to my vehicle? Certainly not. So if the future event has to happen within specified time period to bind the other party liable, it should happen within the stipulated time period. Clear? Contingent contract with impossible events is a mere void agreement. Naturally, it's a wagering agreement rather, it's a void agreement. Why? Initially it is impossible to perform. Look at the difference between 34 and 36. What 34 says? Initially the event was possible to perform, but it turned to be impossible at a future date. Look at 36 now. It says contingent contracts with impossible events. We are not using the word turn to be impossible. Right from the beginning it is impossible to perform. So for example, I may come into contract with someone, so some magician. So please make the deceased person alive. The person who died some 10 years ago, you have to make him alive now. I will give you 1 lakh rupees. That's the contract I made with magician. Assume like this. So is it possible to perform? Can anyone bring back the deceased person? Certainly not. So it is a void agreement. That's the difference between 34 and 36. To the best of my knowledge, section 36 is a mere waste of space in law. It doesn't require any specific explanation because we all know that performance of impossible events right from beginning is a void agreement, which we have already discussed under void agreements. I don't know why section 36 is specifically inserted in contingent contracts. It equally holds good for all contracts as the case of contingent contracts. Now you got it clear? So future event, collateral event, happening or not happening of the event, turning to be impossible, beginning right from beginning impossible, and time period of happening future collateral event. These are the essential elements reckoned by the law in deciding the validity of contingent contract. Now let us try to understand the differences between contingent contracts and wagering agreements. I told you that wagering agreements and contingent contracts look alike. Both depends on future event, happening or not happening of future event. But wagering agreements are invalid, but contingent contracts are valid. Why? Why this validity is attributed to contingent contract and why not to wagering agreements? Let us explore now. We can see the differences between wagering agreements and contingent contracts in 5 different facets. 1. A wagering agreement is a void agreement. That means invalid from the beginning, void ab initio. But a contingent contract is a valid contract. Second, it consists of reciprocal promises. Obviously, if I win, you have to give me money. If you win, I will give you money. That is called wagering agreement or betting agreement. But contingent contract may not contain reciprocal promises. If some future event happens, only then contractual enforceability comes into picture, but not question of exchanging reciprocal promises. It is essentially of contingent nature. Naturally, a betting agreement or a wagering agreement is obviously uncertain. We don't know whether it happens or not. So, contingent contract may not be of wagering nature always. For example, agriculture produce and selling at a future date. So it need not be of betting nature. It is contingent, but it need not be of betting nature because our work is there, our efforts are there in it. So there's obvious possibility for happening of future event. That means happening is certain, whereas non-happening is very minimum certain, or there is maximum possibility to happen the collateral event, let me put this way, but non-happening is less, right? The parties may not have direct interest except that of winning or losing wager in wagering agreement. As I told you earlier, our performance has got nothing to do with betting agreements, but in contingent contracts, the parties will have direct interest in the contract. It's my vehicle. I took insurance. It's your company. You collected insurance premium from me. You have to pay me compensation. Hope no more discussion is required on this point. The future event may not be collateral to agreement, but in the case of contingent contracts, the future event must be collateral to contract. Collateral means very much incidental, unrelated. I told you earlier, if American president wins, I will give you money. If he loses, you give me money. So what is our collateral interest in this betting or in this agreement, except winning or losing the wager or a bet, isn't it? So in contingent contract, we have direct interest in the performance of contract. So now you tell, after listening to these differences, can we say that contingent contracts and wagering agreements are same? No, though they looks like same, but wagering agreements are invalid, contingent contracts are very much valid. So with this, the discussion on contingent contract is also complete. In our next class, we will learn about the rules governing the performance of contract. That is from section 37 to section 67. Of course, 68 to 72 deals with quasi-contracts. Now we will focus only on performance of contracts, that is time of performance, place of performance, mode of performance, so on and so forth. That will be our next discussion. For time being, please try to attempt these assignment questions. What are the legal rules governing contingent contracts? Assignment 2. Explain the differences between a wagering agreement and contingent contracts. These two are duly covered in our discussion. Now I will give you something new. List out at least 10 contingent contracts of your choice. I already gave you 2 examples. Taking insurance policy for my vehicle, or farmer's agreement with trader to sell the future produce of his farmland. So you can go on writing n number of or innumerable contingent contracts that you come across, but at least I want 10 from you, right? So see you in the next class. If you have any doubts, please feel free to revert back at 98495-60102 or nsureshnaidu@gmail.com. So once again, let me meet my copyright obligations because this video goes into public. So the content which I studied to prepare these slides is absorbed from the essentials of mercantile law, the elements of mercantile law by N.D. Kapoor. It's a Bible. Everyone should follow this book. One want to learn mercantile law or teach mercantile law, right? See you in the next class. Bye.